Hello there, Battlefield and non-Battlefield players, and welcome to another episode of BattlefieldOne Podcast, where we talk about Battlefield and only Battlefield. My name is Tom, aka The Lanky Soldier. I have a YouTube channel and I'm the host of Live Gaming Gathering Podcast, and today I'm all by myself. Yeah, sadly I'm all by myself because Ray has his in-laws visiting him, so he's not available for a couple of days, and he's not available for today's recording, so unfortunately it's only me. But then again, I'm the only one that played Season 5 so far, so I'm probably the only one on this podcast can even talk about it. But anyway, that won't stop us from having a bit of fun conversation about Battlefield 2042, the Season 5 review of course, and that DICE finally announces Season 6, and it's indeed happening. I actually can't believe it, but we'll talk about it. So before we continue, we have time codes, so if you don't want to listen to everything in this particular episode, you only want to listen to the particular part, there's time codes in the description whenever you're listening to the podcast. So it will be Spotify, iTunes, or even YouTube. Yeah, we do have a YouTube channel now. Well, it's an old YouTube channel from many years ago. I revived it. I started to upload all the podcast episodes to YouTube. Still early days because I'm still not happy about the thumbnail. I'm not happy about how it looks, but we do YouTube right now. But anyway, not the point. The point is that there's time codes for you to check if you don't want to listen to the whole thing. So just click on the time code and listen to whatever you want. Easy. And of course, follow our socials, our Twitters and everything, also in the descriptions. And if you want to get some early access to this episode or any other BattlefieldOne podcast episode, or get some extra content from Live Gaming Gathering that is exclusive to you, and you just want to support the show, check out the Patreon at Lanky Soldier. TheLankySoldier, to be fair. And excuse me if I stop sometimes and have a sip of water or do something else. It's because summer is here. It's 29 degrees right now in UK, and it's difficult. So I had a fan running in the background before I press record. Goddamn, boys and girls, it's really hot here. Summer is here. Anyway, so climate change is the thing. No, but it's not even climate change. It's maybe God fun. Not the point. It's just very hot. So excuse me if I take a sip of water or something else, because it's just unbearable. Anyway, so just recently, me and Ray had an amazing episode on Patreon. And I do want to promote the Patreon again. And it was about the drama that Ghost of Gaming had with EA Creator Network. And I fully recommend that episode to everyone, just because we discussed both points of view with negatives and positives. And I think it was a fantastic episode. And I think it will surprise you what we have to say about about all this drama that happened. So I fully recommend to listen to that episode, and because we have a free trial, you can have a free trial for 7 days, you can listen to that episode and unsubscribe if you don't want to. But if you enjoy the other content and so on, please do continue to subscribe. That's the best way to support the podcast and this show and so on. So thank you guys for everything you guys do. Again, really hard. Thank you guys for doing everything to us, because it helps. But yeah, I recommend to listen to that episode. It's really good. And it's one of those things that I want to talk about. Excuse me. It's one of those things I really wanted to talk about in the Patreon, not in the public episode, because people would probably take something out of context. And I think in the Patreon one, we gave actual context to all the situation. And I don't want people to think that we said something bad or whatever. No, I think we were neutral about this whole situation, and I think we gave our feedback properly and professionally. It's just one of those things that you don't really want to talk in public that much, just because, like I said, someone will take it out of context, because I've been in so many situations where I say something and they took just one bit of something from that particular episode, not this particular, but just in general. I remember I was talking about something, but I can't remember what, and some guy took it out of context and it kind of blew up, and I'm like, that's not what I said. That's not what I said whatsoever, not even close. And you took like 90% of the context for that point I was making. So hopefully that's not gonna happen again. But anyway, that's an interesting conversation we had. So I do recommend for you to listen to the Patreon episode because it's really good. But anyway, that's not the point. I'm done promoting the Patreon and everything. You're here for the Battlefield conversation. And Season 5 came out. Battlefield 2042, Season 5. And I'll be honest from the get-go. I like it. I actually really, really like it. Content-wise, it's nothing special. 2 new weapons and a new map, basically. I think it's the lowest content drop we ever got in a season, to be fair. And honestly, it's not a bad thing. I understand that some people say, oh, now we can have more maps because back in the day we got specialists and everything, but honestly, if you ask me, even if the specialists stayed, and the classes never returned, but even now you could actually add more specialists into classes, but I don't treat specialists as content, honestly. The main content has always been, weapons and maps. Or maybe even game modes, that kind of stuff. Specialist, I never really found that as content, but anyway, that's personally me. So content-wise, it's nothing special. I think it's the lowest season. Yeah, this is the lowest content-wise, compared to other seasons. I even know what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's regarding content. But it does make up in other areas. A lot of quality of life improvements, to the vault weapons, to the squad management. Logos were updated for the equipment, for example, AA, like the anti-air rocket or missile, whatever you want to say it. Before this update, it was like some sort of X or cross or whatever. It made no sense for you to look at it like, yeah, that's anti-air. To me, that did not make sense logically, and physically. And there's a bloody car in the background just doing noises. Anyway, it's a running joke right now that every time I record, there's always someone or something doing loud noises when I'm recording, and it's just like it's been a running joke forever. But anyway, all the quality of life improvements, the weapons and everything, the squad management and all that kind of stuff. I understand that people are mad about the no kick feature, but from what I experienced so far, it's not really a big deal. Of course, it would be nice to have it. It would be really, really nice to have it, but who cares? It's such a small detail. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What else? The camera improvements. Yeah, the camera improvements to the soldier movement. I love it. So whoever doesn't know what I'm talking about is that since Battlefield 2042 came out, I always complained about the game having a really amateurish, too slick, too floaty movement mechanics. So when you control your character and you're going from A to B, it doesn't feel like you're touching the ground. It feels like you're just floating above the ground or whatever, and you have your weapon and everything swinging in the air, and it doesn't feel like you're touching the ground. It doesn't feel like you're part of the environment, It doesn't feel like you're, on the map as a character. The movement itself, the animations and everything felt really floaty. I did not enjoy it. And I did mention that it's not a bad thing to have a floaty movement in your video game. It's not a bad thing. I think it's a fantastic thing to have, as long as it makes sense in that particular video game. And the example I brought up a couple of days ago was Titanfall 2. And Titanfall 2 is an amazing video game. I love that franchise. I love Titanfall. I recommend everyone to play it once in a while because it's such an amazing experience. The single player and the multiplayer. Even though they're two different experiences, but I just love the single player and I love the multiplayer even more. But for that game, it made sense to have a floaty type of movement. because it's Titanfall. You jump around buildings, you doing parkour, all that kind of stuff, doing some amazing shit that basically makes no sense physically or in terms of physics, but that's not the point. The point is to be the fastest person on the map while shooting your gun and everything. That made sense in Titanfall. But with Battlefield, it's a video game that is based on some, at least for the last, except Battlefield Heroes, every Battlefield game was somewhat based in reality. And when I say based in reality, it's like it's authentic in reality. So it doesn't have jetpacks, it doesn't have grappling hooks. Well, now we do. But even then, every Battlefield game, except Battlefield Heroes, was somewhat based on reality, and it's supposed to be authentic to the soldier experience. So like you're a soldier in a battlefield, and that's kind of it. And it was always based on the realistic aspects of life, of war. So my criticism towards Battlefield 2042 was that if you don't feel that you're part of the environment, that you don't feel like you're part of this war, I don't think it feels right. And it feels too arcadey. Like, it's nothing bad with arcadey, as long as it makes sense for that game. With Battlefield, you always needed that feeling that you're part of the environment, part of the war, part of this battle, and so on. And when your soldier doesn't feel like that, when you're controlling your character, and it doesn't feel like that you're a soldier on this battlefield, I think it loses a big part of what makes Battlefield. Well, what makes it interesting, what makes you interested in the franchise in the first place, what makes you relate to it. So what DICE did, they did camera changes to the game that made feel a bit heavier, feel a bit that there's some weight on your shoulders as you run from A to B. And even though it's just a simple camera change, and you can disable this motion in the settings, and if you want to go back to the floaty feeling of the game, you can do that. You can go to the settings and disable it. Because some people were complaining that they got motion sickness from that, and they're like, I don't think it's that. I think you just got used to Battlefield 2042 being so floaty, so you don't even realize how other games do it, because it looks like these people only play Battlefield 2042, and that's why they got like, oh, I have motion sickness. I don't think you have motion sickness. I think you just got used to, even the camera movement and the current camera movement they did in Battlefield 2042, I don't think it's even that bad comparing to Modern Warfare 2, for example. Modern Warfare 2022 or Warzone, whatever. I don't think it's even that bad. I think that it has more camera shake and camera movement in that game than Battlefield 2042. So, and it's fine. But anyway, that's not the point. So I do enjoy the camera changes they did, because it feels right now that you have some weight on your shoulders as you're going from A to B, and that's fantastic. 2 years too late, but I'm glad they're there. At least they added this, and now it feels a bit more, not realistic, but more like authentic. That you like, yes, I feel I have a gun in my hands. I feel that I have a military gear on me. I feel that it takes a bit of effort to go from this location, and I think it's fantastic. I'm not against, making it simple and easy to use character. That's not the point. The point is just to make it feel authentic, because again, at the end of the day, it doesn't change your movement speed or anything else. It just adds a bit of immersion, if you want to say, immersion to the camera movement and everything, and it's just a camera change. That's kind of it, and if you don't like it, you can always disable it in settings. So it's a fantastic change, and I love it. I'm glad they finally added it. Map itself. So the map is called Reclaimed, and it's a map inspired by Zavod 311 from Battlefield 4. It's a brand new map. It's nothing like Zavod, but you can see that it is inspired by Zavod from Battlefield 4, because he has that theme, that setting around it, and it's quite interesting how they approached it. And originally, when they announced it, like, oh, this is gonna be like Battlefield 4 inspired map from that game. It's gonna be inspired by a certain map from that game. And I think they originally said that it's gonna be for 128 players, for obvious reasons, because Battlefield 2042 has 128 players. So they said we're gonna make this Battlefield 4 inspired map with 128 players for Season 5. That was many months ago. I remember they mentioned 128 players. But as Season 5 came out, this map is only for 64 players. Now, I am really, really happy that they kind of low-key scrapping the idea that 128 players was a bad idea. And then going back to 64-player servers. Of course, you can play 128 players in the Battlefield Portal, but again, who the fuck plays Portal just because he has no support? But anyway, I really, really happy they scrapping 128 players, and they're gonna stick with 64 players for the next upcoming maps. I presume the next map will be 64 players too, just because of 64 players. That means you can have more cover, you can have more detail, more quality. You can make the maps more thicker, if you want to say. It just, and performance-wise, it also doesn't. It frees up so much memory for the developers to use, and that's why the maps can look so much better and more detailed and more interesting, and less, open space. It's because it's designed for 64 players. Because 64 players have always been the standard for Battlefield games. And 128 players was the big jump with 2042. And it clearly showed that there's a lot of work that needs to be done for 128 players. But then again, it's just something about that. When I play a Battlefield game, I understand that everyone play for like chaotic armed warfare, combines warfare experience, tanks, jets, armies fighting each other and all that kind of stuff, I get that. But at the same time, when you play a somewhat competitive shooter, you kind of want to feel that you're making a difference on the battlefield, while playing a match and everything. You want to feel that your squad is doing a difference. You can't really do that with 128 players. It's just something about it doesn't feel that rewarding. Yeah, you maybe captured a flag, but who cares? You lost another 3 flags because there's other 30-40 players going to the other objectives, and just it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like you're making a difference. And it's just random particles colliding together and just like, let's see what's the outcome. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything important. With 64 players, you do feel that you're making some sort of difference because there's only 6 flags on the map. And if you capture it, you feel that you achieved something. Every kill matters, every revive matters, everything you do matters. And that makes a huge difference if you win or lose the game. So I really, really like that. So I'm glad that they actually stick with 64 players and not 120 players. And you can tell the visuals on this map are beautiful. I think it's the most beautiful map they ever made. It's fantastic. It's really fantastic looking map visually. Gameplay wise, definitely has Zavod feelings. But like I said, it's not a remake of Zavod. And I think that's what makes Battlefield different from Call of Duty. For example, in Call of Duty, when they remake a map, they actually remake the map. It's literally the same map as you remembered from 5 or 10 years ago. Of course, it has a visual update. Maybe it's a different daylight, maybe it's night, maybe it's, middle of the day, maybe it's, evening or whatever that may be, or maybe it's the setting is different, but the layout itself is the same. That's what Call of Duty does. The layout is the same. Everything is there as you remembered 10 years ago, and that's your remake, With Battlefield, like, the only time they ever did, like, proper remakes was with Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 with Striker Karkand DLC. They added Karkand to Battlefield 3. And it was, I mean, the same layout but smaller, because I think it was small. I think it had less flags on Battlefield 3 compared to Battlefield 2. I think it had less flags, but it was kind of just a remake. And Battlefield 4 Second Assault, is that what's it called? Second Assault. Yeah, whatever. One of the DLCs that had Battlefield 3 maps in them. And it kind of had the similar layout, but even then, they added some new pathways to go around the choke points. For example, Battlefield 3 Metro was just a straight line, while in Battlefield 4 Metro, it has an extra tunnel on the side. You can go around the choke points, which made a huge difference, actually. And there was some improvements to Gulf of Oman, I remember. Of course, that there was a sandstorm. I can't remember what other maps were there. Caspian Border, which was also really different from Battlefield 3 Caspian Border. So, and right now, as we go to the future, or present, whatever you want to call it, 2042, we have Reclaimed, this new map that came out with Season 5. It's Zavod, but it's a brand new map. So this is what makes Battlefield and Call of Duty different. When Call of Duty remakes a map, it's almost the same. It just mostly gets a facelift, and it's a different visuals, all that kind of stuff. With Battlefield, you get a brand new experience with a remake. It's not even a remake; it's a remaster. No. What's the correct term? Remake or remaster? I don't know. Point is that you actually get a brand new experience, even though you feel it's the same map spiritually, but it's a different experience. It's a completely different experience, and that's what makes Battlefield remakes different with Call of Duty. You just get a new experience every time, and I get why, and it's a good thing actually. I'm kind of glad they went with 60. Like they did not remake Zavod, they made 64 players. But because I was expecting them, as they mentioned, they're gonna do 120 players, I was expecting they're gonna take, Zavod buildings, or, well, before that we had no idea what map this is gonna be, but because we know it's Zavod now, I was expecting they're gonna take the buildings from Zavod, the main buildings in the middle of the map, just take those, and everything else is brand new or expanded or whatever, because it's 128 players. You can't put 128 players on Zavod and expect to work. So, of course, that's not going to happen. So I was expecting they're going to take, a monument, so-called, from that map and just make a brand new outside, just expand it, because it's supposed to be a map in the future. But they did not do that. And they went completely opposite way. Like I said, they went with 64 players, and it's not even anything like Zavod in terms of, there's two buildings in the middle that somewhat remind you of Zavod, and there's a bunker area of the flag, or whatever you want to call it. On the edge of the map, there is a flag, and it's nothing like Zavod. And that's really fascinating. But you can feel the energy and the soul that is of Zavod it's in this map, even though it's a brand new map completely. And I was listening to I was listening to Battlefield Show podcast on Spotify. I do listen to them. They really have an amazing podcast, and I really enjoy what they have to say and their perspectives. And some of them, one of the hosts, mentioned that the main Battlefield game, which is, like, in this case Battlefield 2042, is a perfect place to remake maps into their setting, make a brand new experience from that map, while Battlefield Portal can be that place where you put straight up remakes. So in Battlefield Portal we have North Shore Canals, Caspian Border, Battlefield Bad Company 2 maps, in there too, and they're straight up remakes. You know, nothing's changed about them. Nothing is different whatsoever. I think, well, Periso has an expanded area for conquest, because originally that map did not have anything regarding that, so which makes sense. But the actual core of the maps is the same. It's the remakes. So I kind of like the idea that Battlefield Portal is that place where you can have your straight up remakes with minimal changes, while your retail game, in this case Battlefield 2042, can have your remakes of the maps, but a completely different experience, which is reclaimed. And I freaking love that. So yeah, so I love how the map is detailed, loads of cover, loads of trees, buildings, everything, and you can see like in the background of the map, you see like rockets flying in the air, and you see like a condor dropping water to, you know, fight the fires in the distant forest, all that kind of stuff. Just the little stuff that makes the map feel more alive. That's why I think this is the best looking, the most alive map they have in the game, because it's just so much love and detail put into this map. You know, it just makes it feel like, oh, this is a proper Battlefield map. Negative wise, the map is a bit too small. I think it's a fantastic map, plays well and everything, but I think it's a bit too small. And what makes it small, I think, is the movement we have in the game. Back in Battlefield 4, for example, you never had grappling hooks, you never had, what's her name, Sundance. You know, you never had a wingsuit, or, you know, really high running speed. Like, this game is really fast, if you think about it. This game is really fast compared to other Battlefield games. So I guess they try to do almost like a similar remake, you know, the same, you know, like I said, you have the Soul of Zavod, and they probably try to replicate the same distance between flags to make it somewhat accurate, in which they kind of did, but the game feels so much faster compared to Battlefield 4, and I think it's because of the movement changes, or like just that's the way the game is the game is really fast, and we have tools to make the game even faster. And I think that's what makes the map feel a bit smaller. And some outbounds areas, I think, are too close, because it feels like they tried to go for that Battlefield 1 map design, where there's always like a lane where two teams always meet, no matter what you do. And I never really liked that in a conquest map. You know, I never liked Battlefield 1 map design, because that's how it felt. It felt like they forced it for the two teams to meet, which is not a bad thing, but it just feels like really artificial, and it's like you can see the area, you know, in the outbounds area. You just want to go there. Like there was so many times where I just want to go around there and flank, because it's my natural assumption, like, oh, I see this area, I can go here, because it feels like it's detailed enough for me to go around there. But the game says, nah, you can't do that. Which kind of sucks, because I would love to go around and, you know, do a flank, but I can't, because the game doesn't let me, because I'll bounce. And I think they could improve that. I think they could make a map a little tiny bit bigger, just for us to make those flanks. And for example, I'm a tank driver. I main tanks in the Battlefield games, and I try to, you know, play with a tank on this map. And just yesterday, I think I spent an hour and a half, something like that, just playing in tank, you know, using the tank on that map on both sides, and it's very claustrophobic. Not just because I don't like the high speed. It's just because I can't move. I can only move to like maybe 2-3 directions, and two of those directions are very dangerous for me as a tank driver. Like, I understand you don't want to play safe all the time, but at the same time, I do want to make some sort of difference for my team. And what's the point for me to camp at the back and just get kills? That makes no sense, right? I'm just wasting my time, and I'm wasting my enemy. You know, I'm just wasting everyone's time because I'm not doing anything good. I'm not helping my team to push on the flags. So that's the problem I have with this map. It's a bit too small, and I wish they could expand it a little bit. But yeah. And well, so I have it here on my notes. Oh yeah, and I do finally love that they finally start to limit vehicles on a map. So with Battlefield 2022, actually since starting Battlefield 5, since Battlefield 5 or Battlefield V, whatever you want to call it, they stopped doing like limits to vehicles. And when I say limits, that when you load into a map, from the get-go you can choose any vehicle you want. You know, any vehicle you want. You want this tank and that tank, this heli and this plane and so on. There were no limits. You can do whatever you want. You can pick anything you want. It just doesn't matter. And because of that, there was a lot of balance problems. A lot of like maps that just did not work because of that choice. With this map, they limit certain vehicles, especially the Condor, and I think that's what makes the game more entertaining and more fun, because you do have a limit which vehicles you can use and how many vehicles you can use. And that makes a huge freaking difference how the map plays. And I freaking love that. And because they did it for Reclaimed, for this new map, I wish they could do this for the next, like, not remakes, like, they did remakes of the maps, but like, can they do another pass on these maps and just limit the vehicles on certain maps according to what the map is? Because I do agree that certain vehicles do not work on certain maps, and it would be great if they could start doing that for other maps. So I'm glad they actually realized, like, yeah, we need to start limiting vehicles on certain maps because it just doesn't work. One map can have a tank, one map can have an LAV, and one map can have a attack chopper, and the other one can have a Condor, a transport one. Whatever the case may be, there needs to be some sort of balance, and I think they can do that for the new maps, plural maps, or just do the same thing for the old maps. So I'm glad they actually started doing that. It's really great. But yeah, I'm really glad with the map. I'm really happy about it. Everything is very fantastic, and I recommend it. And of course, the game is not magically fixed with, speaking of, should I talk about the weapons? Nah, not really. I don't care. Because I know people are excited for the new weapons, but I just don't really care. Just like, new weapons, who cares? I'm glad that the world weapons have finally attachments, proper attachments that you can use, which makes a huge difference of how much you want to enjoy the game or the weapons in that matter. But I unlocked the M416. Is it that's what it's called, M416, or is it M4A1? No, it's M416. Yeah, that's the one. I unlocked it. I attached some attachments. I added some attachments to that weapon. I'm like, doesn't feel good anyway. It's just because the world weapons just don't feel good comparing to your normal 2042 weapons. It just doesn't feel that satisfying. Which is kind of disappointing. Even the attachments don't make it that enjoyable, which is sad. And I think it's because the animations or the shooting mechanics, I don't know what is it, but it just doesn't feel nice. Even with the attachments, it's just like, eh. But yeah, regarding weapons, I just don't really care, because weapons never really cared that much. I'll use whatever it feels comfortable for me, and I kind of stopped caring about the metas, all that kind of stuff. It's important if I play some sort of ranked mode, which is in Call of Duty, it is important to have some sort of meta build that makes, but a meta build that makes you comfortable. But it's just, in Battlefield, it doesn't really matter. Who gives a damn? It's just, play whatever you want, whatever makes you happy, and that's kind of it. So yeah, great update, great season, I think. Battle Pass is okay, but map is great, weapons are fine. Lots of quality life improvements. I love it. It's fantastic. But of course, magically, the game is not fixed. I'll be honest. It still has loads of problems that I would love them to address. But I'm glad. I'm really, really glad they finally approaching that era when they can say, yeah, I think we're entering, like, this game is somewhat good. Like, it's actually somewhat good, and I'm okay with that. Still loads of problems to address, but it's nice to know that there's loads of positives that happened, and I don't think anyone can ask for more, honestly. Even though I've been really critical of it, all the time. All it matters that if they continue at this pace and keep improving the game, we're gonna be in a really good spot as time goes on, and yeah. So, good update. I hope they continue. I hope Season 6 will be equally good. And yeah, I think we should talk about Season 6. So, Season 6. So, I was wrong. When I heard that particular news drop, that Season 6 is happening, I was surprised. And I will explain why. Under no circumstances, Season 6 should be happening. But again, gaming industry is unpredictable, and I'm extremely happy that Season 6 is indeed happening. Makes me really happy. No matter what I said about what I said in previous episodes, about Battlefield 2042, Season 6 announcement is good news. I might hate this game with passion. I might, rip a new asshole for this game every fucking day. But one thing I always said, though, until the next game comes, and that new game won't come out till 2014. Okay, I'll talk about that later. It doesn't matter when the game comes out. The point is that this game needs to be supported. No matter how much I hate Battlefield 2042, no matter how much I dislike it and everything else, this game needs to be supported until the new game is released. Because they announced Season 6, it's good PR. Because it gives confidence to the player base. It keeps the game running until the new game is announced. And as I was going through the comments, Battlefield community is extremely happy about the news. They're extremely happy about the announcement that Season 6 is happening. And I've seen some people outside the Battlefield community start to talk more positively about 2042, and they actually making videos about it. Big Call of Duty creators or Battlefield creators, whatever you may be, whatever type of creator you are, but I've seen a lot of big ones start to make videos about Battlefield 2042, and they're having fun, and that's a fantastic thing to experience, because wow, the shit we had back in the day with how the game came out, what happened, all that kind of stuff, it's really nice to know that there's some positivity happening around the community, even outside the community. So yeah, I'm glad it's happening, and I'm glad Season 6 is announced. Of course, jokes are happening. Yeah, but what about Second Breakfast? What about Season 7 and Season 8? Are those coming? And I'll talk about them in a moment, but yeah, I really think this game needs to be supported just to have continue that goodwill that is happening with DICE and EA right now with Battlefield. And we don't know what the next Battlefield is. We don't know when the next Battlefield game is scheduled. But if it's indeed 2025, it could be 2024, but I have a feeling 2024 is not, I don't think there's going to be a Battlefield game for 2024. Something about doesn't, I think Battlefield needs to be, I think it needs a break, I think them releasing a game in 2024, which is next year, I don't think that's a good time to release a game. Just because I think Battlefield needs a bit of a break, and I just want to see, from what it seems, the game will be really ambitious. But anyway, I'm kind of jumping the gun here. So, But if it's indeed 2025, we need to support this game for a minimum a year, like a minimum more. A year minimum. Because that's how you build confidence in your next product. And it's nice learning experience for the new developers that join the studio. And it just, like I said, good PR. So of course, with season 6 announced, like I already joked, oh, what about the second breakfast? What's exactly the catch? And I can already see my friend is going to be bitching at me. Certain friend is going to be bitching at me. So what do you want then? We announced season 6. What do you want? What else do you want? I can already see our comments coming at me from him. And mostly because companies are not your friends. And you need to keep them on your toes about everything. Otherwise, they will do whatever they want to cut the budget, fuck you up as a customer, and try to sell you a brand new shiny thing that will do nothing in the long run. Case in point, Activision, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3 that is coming out this year. My biggest criticism, actually, before we continue. Okay, I just need that sip. I didn't have a sip of water since, for 40 minutes. God damn. Anyway, my biggest criticism with Activision and Call of Duty is that they have no long-term plan for their franchise. I was really excited that Modern Warfare 2 will be a 2-year game, even though it was never really officially announced. But it's the truth. It's the facts. It's in the public. It's public knowledge. In one of the Patreon episodes, I mentioned that Modern Warfare 2 would never do so well. It would never be a top-selling game if the public never knew about the 2-year plan. And there was argument saying, oh, casual players don't really care. No, I think we're in this era where casual players are not dumb. They know what's happening. They know about the leaks. They know about all these stories that are happening. It's not only the hardcore player base that follows these news because of, TikTok exists, YouTube Shorts exist. You can deliver this information very easily to the public, in the most efficient way possible. So I really think we live in an era where casual players are not that out tune with everything that is going on around the gaming industry. They do know about the leaks. They do know about the, all the stuff that is happening in the background. They know about that kind of stuff. And why do my neighbors are so fucking loud? Well, she has a big plant that she carried. Anyway, there's a big window that I can see what's happening. So yeah, casual players know what's happening around, gaming industry. And that's why I think Modern Warfare 2 did so well, is because of those leaks. And a lot of people are really unhappy about Modern Warfare 3 being in development right now as a separate game and not as an expansion. Even though it'll be the same game, it'll be the same Modern Warfare, just more of it, but it will be a separate game. It's just an excuse for them to charge $70 for the game. So that was my criticism regarding Activision, because they don't have a long-term plan. So that's why everyone questioning, well, what about season 7, season 8 and 9 and 10 and so on? Of course, they won't announce all those seasons way ahead of time, because game development is a bitch. You don't know what's gonna happen. And some people say that, they want to see how season 5 will do, and they will see if they want to announce season 7 and so on, because they want to see how the performance will be. I don't think that's the case. Just because this kind of stuff is being planned months and months ahead. If there's season 7, they're already working on it. That's just a fact, because it takes a long time to make content for these type of games. And it's just the truth. So they announced season 6. And I still think it might be our last season, because it kind of makes sense. Like, well, season 6 would end like right at the end of I would say December, like in the middle of December or something like that. It's like the perfect time to end support for a video game, because usually that's how it is. Like, what if a studio starts to work on a new game, it's usually they start development, mostly with AAA studios. They start development right after New Year's. So after New Year's, it's literally like brand new slate, new game, developers moved on to this new project, and whatever's left of the old game, it's mostly skeleton crew support, usually, or just abandoned entirely. So usually, like with EA especially, with EA and DICE, they usually it's like after New Year's. So if season 6 ends like middle of December, that's like the perfect time to cut support, business-wise. And also from EA's perspective, if you're a business, right, and you see that your seasons, like season 4 and season 5, it might grow a player base a little bit. It might grow, you might get a couple of new 1,000 players, on all platforms. But does it justify the support? End of the day, you're still a business. Is it worth spending all this resource on supporting a game that is not making you any more money? And I really don't think season 5 or even season 6 will make them a lot of money from season passes, not season pass, battle passes, is because a lot of players, those hardcore players that kept playing Battlefield 2042, have enough currency to get those battle passes anyway. So they're not really spending their real life money, they're spending the currency they got from the game in the first place, So I don't think it just, from business point of view, and as I actually want to check the Steam charts quickly. Let's see, Steam charts. I know Steam charts is not the best indicator if the player base is healthy or not, but it's a good indicator how it's doing on other platforms. Of course, with there's Origin and all that kind of stuff, PlayStations and everything. So the new season got released. EA has more players. It has definitely the biggest peak players to date since December 2022. But it did not grow. It did not grow to that level that it would justify spending the resources. The player base is not growing quick enough, and I really doubt season 5 will, like I said, season battle passes. I don't think it's gonna sell a lot of battle passes, and the game is not bringing a lot of new players to the game. It might bring 1 or 2 because of those content creators that are making videos about this game. But if you EA, do you really commit more resources if the growth is not there to justify it? I don't. Also, at one point, a developer slipped up, and there was a developer that tweeted something on Twitter, and he kind of slipped up, saying, "Oh, season 6 will be the last thing I worked on this game," which might indicate that season 6 will be the last thing they would do. Of course, that says nothing. It could just mean that, oh, this developer is worked on something specific, and they don't need to use resources anymore because he already did everything he could. They are really satisfied with whatever he was working on, and that should be it. And he can move on to the next project, and that's kinda it. Because his expertise is needed somewhere else. And that's fair. And you don't need a big number of developers working on 2042, at least on paper. And I understand maybe he just moved on to the next project. Of course, it doesn't mean it's the last season. But the way he worded, it just sounds like maybe it's the last season. And like I said, it made sense business-wise to cut support in December. And of course, speaking of resources, you need all hands on deck for the next game. And like I mentioned before, we don't know what the next release date for the next Battlefield game is. If it's actually 2024 or 2025. But if it's 2024, I have a feeling it's going to be another hot launch. Because from what like EA announced so far, it's a very ambitious game. Single player is being made by Ridgeline Studios. Multiplayer is being made by DICE. And Ripple Effect Studios from the DICE LA are working on some third mode for the next game. This is the first time that EA puts a lot of resources for the next game. I don't remember Battlefield being this packed with studios and developers. And it's really interesting. It's just yeah. And for example, like on the last podcast episode, we talked about if the next Battlefield game needs a Battle Royale. And I fully recommend you to listen to it because everyone in their minds will think, well, no, Battlefield doesn't need a Battle Royale. That's not what makes it Battlefield. Yeah, so of course the answer is no. But I think that what we discussed there will surprise you. And I think that's why you need a separate studio working on that third mode. We don't know if it's going to be a Battle Royale. Of course we don't know. But I don't think it's anything small either. You know. So anyway, so I think it's because we entering that time where the next game is around the corner. It will be 2024, 25. I think they need every developer on hand, you know, and this might be the last season. That's what I'm thinking. But at the same time, because I really enjoyed this update, I really enjoy Season 5, I really enjoy what they did, I really enjoy the entering that positive era of this game, you know, positive era of this game, where people are happy what DICE is doing, they're happy with the content. Season 6 is announced, which is again really good PR, really amazing stuff. People are excited, people are happy, people looking forward to it. Some new players are joining the game and they playing the game. And I hate to admit it, even though I really hate to admit it, I hate when they get to me. It's like, this is the first time I feel like, you know what? Yeah, I am looking forward to Season 6. And I want to believe that there is Season 7 and 8. You know, and so on. And we'll have another year of support for this game until the next game is announced. I want to believe that. And I hate when they do that to me. I hate it when they get to me, to my brain, like, to my little tiny Battlefield brain, say, you should be excited for the next for the next chapter. We'll see what's happening in the future. You should be excited. And I hate that when they get to me. Because I've always been so negative about 2042 for obvious reasons. And I've always been very, very cagey about being positive because I don't want to be hurt again. As a Battlefield player, I got hurt many, many times by EA and DICE and so on. I got hurt so many times with Battlefield 4 CTE, with Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 and so on. I don't want to get excited for something that may or may not happen. Because I remember how it ended before. I got excited and they just cut it. Just done. It ended. It ended. It's just like no ceremony, nothing, just like buy the new game. And I hate that. So that's why I was like never really positive about anything, because I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna cut support at the end as soon as the game got good. You're like, yeah, see ya bitches, buy the new game. I hate that. But they already surprised us with Season 5 because there was no reason for them to release or announce Season 5, but they did. They did. And they announced Season 6. The first 4 seasons were legally, they had to legally provide them because they sold those battle passes. With season 5, they had no reason to do that. Like, no, you don't need this. Game's gone, done. Support ended. We don't need to waste more resources. But they surprised us with that, and they announced season 6, which is also a surprise. So they went beyond what they were supposed to do. And should I get excited for season 7? Am I ready to be positive about all of this? Am I ready to say, yeah, I recommend this game because it's in a good state right now, which I think it is. Should you buy Battlefield 2042? Should you play this game and be excited for the future? I hate to say, but maybe yes. But my brain is saying, no, season 6 will be the last because it just makes sense business-wise. But so far, they said, fuck business, we could keep supporting it. Which, so many conflicting thoughts and facts, I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know what's right and what's wrong. I don't know what's the truth anymore. What I'm gonna say is that I'm actually really excited for the future, and I do hope there is season 7 and 8 and so on, because we need it. We actually need it, and I hope the next game is not out till 2025. Honestly, I hope it's not 2024. I do need to Google what games EA has scheduled for 2024 and determine if they have a game that needs to be released. Also, the reason why I don't think we'll get season 7 is because EA never really announced. They said nothing about Battlefield at their earning calls, shareholders' earning calls, and they never mentioned Battlefield. So do we want to believe that they're gonna continue updating the game and never mention it? Confusing, isn't it? But yeah, overall, I just extremely love this update. Good quality of life changes, well weapons and everything. Gameplay is good, and a lot of questions regarding Season 6 and beyond. But I still want to believe that this won't be the last season. Season 6 won't be the last season, and we'll get support. On that note, I don't know what else to talk about. I actually don't know. It's kind of amazed that I'm still alive and talking because it's so fucking hot. Actually, I've been feeling dizzy for the last 2 days, just not feeling well. Don't know why. I guess the pressure gets to me. But yeah, Battlefield 2042. It's in a good state. Good spot right now. Positive feedback. Everything is in a good spot right now. Excited for Season 6. And I'm actually low-key excited for Season 7 and so on, because I really want that. But at the same time, I'll be very cautious right now. Because, like I said, I got hurt before. But yeah, that's kind of it. I have nothing else to say. It's just, yeah, I think you should play it. That's all. I think you should play it. I think it's an enjoyable Battlefield experience right now. That's kind of it. So, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble. I know it's only me. It's only me and... usually it's me and Ray, but Ray, again, is not available because of me. His in-laws are visiting, so I had to do the podcast by myself. And thank you, the Patreon people that support the podcast non-stop, because it makes a huge difference. It motivates us to do more. Motivates us to be better at what we do. And I do hope you enjoyed my ramblings and my talking and everything, because I understand I might go, out of topic sometimes and just talk too long or repeat myself, because it's only me. And I only have like certain amount of notes, I don't have any big script or anything. It's just me talking randomly about something that I'm really passionate about, which is Battlefield. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. Check out our patreon.com/TheLankySoldier. get that exclusive content, get that extra early access, and just support the show. Check out Live Gaming Gathering Podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube, wherever you listen to the podcast. And yeah, that's kind of it. I hope I see you guys on the battlefield. I'll hope you'll have a good time. And yeah, see you guys and have a good one.